And I'm live again today talking about the really bad stuff, the times where you just feel like you can't cope, where the overwhelm is intense, when you feel like you're drowning and you're backed into a corner. There's no solutions, no answers, maybe even not even people to turn to. And life can feel like that, especially when things happen that are either your worst nightmare or there's repeated things, like you have one bad thing, another bad thing, and it's just like, I just can't take one more thing. And of course, life will throw you something else. And people say, like, God will never give you more than you can handle, but it definitely does not feel like that. It feels like in life that sometimes the weight is just too much. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the yuck, the shame, the badness, the I want to withdraw, I don't even want to live anymore kind of stuff. So before I do, I want to give you some metaphorical information, because there's always stuff in nature that mirrors our spiritual journey, our emotional journey. There's always, like, it doesn't matter whether you're using air or water or fire or earth or any of the elements. They reflect all the different aspects of us. But right now I want to talk about bone density, bone strength. And my sister and my mother have both suffered with osteoporosis. Bone density is something that women often have an issue with and often have to deal with. So understanding how bone density actually works can help us in understanding how our internal strength can work as well. So with our bones, only 1% of our calcium is actually stored in our blood. So doing a blood test for calcium is kind of useless, because the calcium in your blood is always going to be taken from your bones. And there's two types of cells. There's a bone builder called an osteoblast, and a bone reabsorber, which is called an osteoclast. So the blasts are building bone and the clasts are eating it away. So you've always got those clasts that are always sucking the calcium and taking away the bone cells. Now, if the clasts do their job really, really well and the blasts are not building fast enough, you're going to end up with porous bones. You're going to end up with weak, brittle bones. So it's really important that those blasts are doing their job, the building up, and that's the strength and the resilience of the bone is done when the building happens. So but a bone isn't just like a stick or a stone where it just is what it is. It's constantly turning over. Your cells in your bones are constantly turning over, so you don't have the same bones that you had 3 years ago. They're always changing. And it's like that with our emotional and our spiritual density as well, how our strength and our resilience. And when you have problems, they're like the clasts, the osteoclasts, that are clawing away at our strength, the stresses, the upsets, the emotions. And that is how our psyche is. We're always building our psyche, we're always building our emotional resilience, and we're always having things that are eating away or draining at us. And so it's like that with energy too. You build your energy up, you use it, it drains away, and you need to replenish. So tough times can actually collapse us. They can break us down, but they can also build us up. And I want to explain that. So what's important in these tough times, because we tend to struggle and resist and want to avoid the pain. We want to avoid the suffering, and we want to avoid going through anything challenging. And in those tough times, it's like it's just, it feels like it's too much. But we can get a lot of power from accepting. So I know somebody that has had immense health issues, paralysis, and all sorts of different things. And this person holds their emotional strength and their faith really strong because they're constantly building on that and not allowing their health issues to drag them down. So with this emotion, with this period of distress, of times of struggle. All times will pass. Everything that is today will not be there in the future. Everything that was 100 years ago is now over. And there is a theory that says even doing nothing will solve a problem, because nothing is permanent. So every problem will eventually pass. It may not pass the way we'd like it to pass, but even doing nothing will allow it to pass. So knowing that everything will pass is a very powerful thing, and accepting that this is the current situation, and then looking for ways at how we can get through to the other side in the optimum way. It's a bit like energy. Energy needs to flow, and it needs to flow through us, and emotion is energy. So you can witness that emotion without wallowing in the emotion. So witness the fear, witness the overwhelm, witness the grief, the sadness, but don't wallow in it. So allow it to pass through our bodies, because it is a physical thing, and then assess, what do I need now to rebuild? So I went to a funeral yesterday, a family, extended family funeral, and was there in that space of grief and mourning, and watching, how we witnessing how we experience grief, how it comes up in us, and then how that flows through us. And of course, there's the grief cycle where you go through the denial, the bargaining, the anger, the depression, and come out through to an acceptance, is where it starts to get better and you can heal. And that's the same with all emotion. It needs to pass through. We need to accept it, witness it, and then allow it to pass out of us again. Now, energy, we all have a masculine and a feminine energy within us. Even though we may present as either male or female, every male and every female has both masculine and feminine energy within us. Now, masculine energy is all about action. It's all about doing. It's the battle, the build, it's an action-based energy. And feminine energy is all about feeling, sensing, receiving, and being. And we need to do both. When we're highly action-based, we are denying, fragmenting, and ignoring our feminine side. And when we're too much in the feminine energy and too much in that receiving and feeling, we can go into states of helplessness. So tough times are all different and all need different energy. So if you have a physical problem, like your house is burning down or flooding or something, then your masculine energy is going to be to jump up and start loading stuff into you're going to be doing with your body. Feminine energy might be about allowing others to help solve the problem, and being able to receive the support and the care, and to be able to feel what that actually felt like to go through that, and then pass that experience so that it's let go and in the past. So not all problems can be seen, and every problem needs to be gone through. You cannot go around the problem. You cannot go over it or under it. It's like that song, Going on a Bear Hunt. I'm not scared. You have to go through it. And when we avoid, and I'm learning this in big ways at the moment, when we go through to the other side, we can, it's actually less exhausting. We're actually confronting our fears, to be honest. We're going through the worst of things, but it's less exhausting and less disempowering, because when we are avoiding, we're not in an empowered state. Some problems are not ours. They belong to other people in our family, other people we love, care about, and those things may hurt us. It's important to be able to assess, is this my problem for me to put my action or my acceptance or whatever on, or does it require my action, or does it require my acceptance? So if problems break us down, like the osteoclast, we need to continue building, and that needs to come from a place within us. Now, there's external support, but essentially, a disempowered person goes into a victim state. A victim state is not going to be a state from which we build. So every problem that breaks us down We need to make the choice. And that might be laying in the fetal position on your kitchen floor, saying, why me? But we need to make the choice. Get up and build. Get up and have faith. Building comes from faith. It comes from hope. It comes from faith in good times, faith in resolutions. If you cannot imagine something good, it is unlikely that you're going to get it. So it's about shifting the mind into being able to say, look, other people like me have been in this situation before and have come through it. And there always is a story of hope that you can lean into. So be like the osteoblast and build density, build strength, transform. And I love that word because it really, really, really nails what I truly believe, and that is that the unconscious is running our life. Trance and imagination are the language of the unconscious, and we can access the unconscious when we go into trance. Now, transform, it tells you everything you know about change. You need to know about change, which is that when you can go into trance, you can imagine, and then you can form solutions from there. If you can't solve it with action, solve it with stillness. Stillness, not just stillness of the body, but stillness of the mind. Because when our mind is still, when our heart is still, when our voice is still, when we are still, and there's a thing in the Bible that says, be still and have faith. Be still and know that there is good. So working together, a still heart, mind, and emotion, like everything just being so still, is really, really powerful, because you're not going to be able to think or find solutions when you are running around blurting all over everybody and sitting in the problem. When you're in the problem and you're clawing for solutions, you're actually breaking down, you're not building up. So here's some really powerful questions you can ask yourself. Is physical action necessary, or can I be still? Can I be still? Remembering that, when lions and tigers chase us, we need to run. There is an action required. But if your leg is broken, you just need to be still. Stillness is a secret power, and you can feel that because it's actually very challenging to do. It's very challenging to be still. And I'm not speaking about avoidance. I'm speaking about just being able to be present and observe, become aware and be still and feel things. So guard your heart, guard your mind, and guard your emotions to the extent that the world will slam you from the outside, and you don't have to pick it all up. You can guard yourself from some of that stuff. Sometimes people say stuff, you're like, no, I don't want to hear that. That's not helpful to me. I'm guarding myself from what you're saying. I don't want that in my life or my reality. And I've actually had situations where I have big things going on, and I just won't talk to other people about them because I don't want to be sitting in the problem. I need to keep myself faithful and looking towards the future for good things. And if I don't do that, I'm breaking down, not building up. So tune in for resolution, tune in for solution, tune in for faith, and faith is a muscle. You can strengthen it. Even just finding one small thing you believe in. And yesterday at the funeral, my foster daughter, she came up to me and she was crying, and she said, I remember one thing you said to me when I was 14 years old, and that is to look for just one positive, one good thing in every day. And she said that has kept me going through some really tough times. So that's important. We need to be able to look for the good, because if you sit in the problem and look at nothing but the bad, or you avoid sitting in, facing the problem, you're not going to make progress. You're going to be dragged down. So don't talk too much about your problems. Don't tell other people all about all those terrible things that's going on unless it's necessary. Will their heart and mind will their words bring you solution, problem, build, like strengthening? Are they going to be lifting you up, or are they going to be just like saying, yeah, you're in that big dirty swamp and there's nothing you can do from there. That's so terrible. That's what most people do. They're like, oh, that's terrible. And I know somebody else that was in that problem, and they had an even more terrible situation. So it's kind of like, hey, come and be dark with me. And we don't want that. Do you need other people to take action for you? Do you need their help? In that case, speak up, but tell them what it is you need from them. Don't tell them the problem, expect them to come up with the solution. This is a really big frustration in my life, actually, is when people need help, they need to ask for help, and they need to ask specifically, I need you to do this in this way so that I can do that. So when people say, well, I told you I needed help. No, you didn't. You told me you had a problem. That doesn't tell me you need help, because if you solve other people's problems, you're stealing their opportunity for growth and for strengthening. And I don't want to do that for people. So be still, have faith, know it'll pass, believe that there is a way, even if you can't see it, because faith, that's what faith's about. You might not be able to see the way, but to just know that there is a way, there is an outcome, and there are miracles. It is true. There are miracles. I see them all the time. So I have this little ornament at home. It just sits in the foyer. It says, faith sees the invisible, believes the incredible, and receives the impossible. And this has been so true in my life over and over and over and over again. And so I encourage you to do the same. Tough times call for tough times. Tough times call for tough times, because in that time you need to be tough. And sometimes the toughest thing you can do is stay in faith and believe in good things and have hope. That's tough. It takes a tough person to sit in a painful, scary, awful situation and to say, I will survive and I will get better and I will get through this. Anyone can speak about problems and fear. Anyone can speak about disaster and devastation and destruction, but it takes a strong person to sit in that and speak hope. And so I encourage you to speak that hope. It takes real grunt to be still. It takes real grunt to not go into panic. That takes strength. And to know that all things work together for good. And they do work together for good. Everything happens for a reason. We don't understand what that reason is. We don't even know where it's leading us, but it does happen for a reason. And when you have hindsight or reflection, that's when you can see that things are happening for a reason. And that's important to know. Okay, so we're building up, we're having faith, we're having resistance, we're not avoiding, we're sitting in the problem, we're experiencing it, we're taking action where needed, we're being still where it's needed, and we are remembering that faith is a muscle and we can strengthen it, and just picking out that one good thing in the day and just asking yourself, what action do I need to take? Do I need to talk about this? Who do I need to talk about this to? And then once we've done all that, we can know that we're not alone. You are never alone. First of all, there is more than one of you in you. You can actually observe yourself talking to yourself. So you cannot be just one being. There is more going on in you. You can have a whole conversation with yourself. And secondly, there is a part of you that is filled with spirit and connected to the greater source of creation, that the collective. You are part of a community, of a whole world on earth that welcomed you into this existence. You were welcomed here and you belong here. So draw closer to that part of you. There is a part of you. If you look inside yourself, you'll find it. There is a part of you that seeks connection to that ultimate power. And when you get to truly know yourself, there's that opportunity there for you that to it's not present in good times. It becomes available to you in your darkness, is to seek that higher connection that you have from whatever you were created from and however you got here. And so you can even the physiological act of looking up will change your mood. If you look at people that are depressed, it's all about the slump. It's all about the down. In fact, you're accessing emotions down here with your eyes. But when you're looking up, that's where your vision is, and that is where you can disconnect from some of the stuff that's going on. You can even just move your eyes from side to side, but lifting your eyes up is really powerful for physiological change. Lastly, self-talk and narration. The narrator in us is constantly updating us on what to think and how to feel about certain situations. Your inner narrator speaks to you without your instruction. It says stuff that you are not giving it to say. That's that other part of you, or one of the other parts of you. Usually, if it's making you feel terrible, it's not supporting you. You can change your inner narrator. It's a bit like breathing. I breathe without thinking about it, but then I can consciously go in and I can make myself breathe. I can breathe in any way I choose. And it's like that with your inner narrator. You can choose what you want that inner narrator to say, and you can get it to say those things. Things like, everything is going to be okay. Everything's going to work out. You can do this. And we know you can. And a whole lot different to what the automatic narrator might be saying. So I'll quickly tell you a story about how I use that internal narrator for a really simple thing, which is I get scared of the dark. So I live in a multi-story house, and I go down to the laundry at night, and I'm down there and I feel like someone's going to jump out and grab me, and I'm terrified. And I remind myself, first of all, Naomi, you're safe. You're in your own house. If the light was on, you wouldn't be scared. I self-narrate, and I say to myself, no, you're not going to do that. So there's a couple of things I say to myself. Now, in situations where there's an actual real threat, or I can't cope with that, I can scream for help. And this has happened. I went into the back of a cupboard, the power went out, it was really dark, and I panicked and I screamed, and then people came. Now, it's like that with our problems in our life. In the first instance, you want to remind yourself, I've been through stuff before. I'm going to be okay. Things will work out. This seems really bad right now, and it feels really bad, but you know what? I can do this. All I need to do is keep breathing. Just take breaths in and out, stay alive, and eventually this will pass. You can self-narrate. You can do that. You And then if you get to where, is there an action I can take? No, it's not good for me to take an action here. I'm struggling to sit in it. I can't think positive. You can scream for help. Now, screaming for help is the last resort, but it is an action. And that's where we're talking about asking for help. Scream for help can look like different things. At one point in my life, I went and knocked on a woman's door I didn't know. And I said, look, our daughters are friends at school. My daughter mentioned that you were divorced. I'm going through something really awful at the moment, and I think I just need someone to talk to, and I thought you might understand. And I actually went, and I think I've done that twice, decades apart, where I've knocked on somebody's door that I may have been acquainted with, but I didn't know them, and said, like, I'm really, really struggling. Could we have a cup of tea? I just need your advice. And so asking for help is important. It's really important because, like we've established, depression is lonely, anxiety is scary. All this stuff should not be faced alone. We need to reach out to other people and help each other, be there for each other. I mean, it's like at the funeral yesterday, like my foster daughter said, where were all these people? They all say they all care now. Where were they? How were they caring before? And I said to her, you know what? No one is going to reach into another person's life, because we just don't do that. We don't go, and I don't reach into your life. You don't reach into my life. We don't reach into each other's life. If somebody wants you in their life, they need to open a door and invite you in, or they need to extend an invitation and say, hey, could we talk? Or, hey, what are you doing later? And sometimes you might need to invite people a few times, because people aren't used to being invited into other people's lives. Reach out, invite someone in, ask for help, scream if you need to. There are obviously, just like physical health, there's hospitals and doctors and stuff, and there's the same thing for mental health. It might not have reached the same level of, comfort because it's not as familiar, but there are things out there. And even, let's say, for example, the Lifeline hotline, the Beyond Blue, and some other stuff. And there's even stuff now specifically coming up for men, which is good to see because men have been very much ignored in the mental health space for a very long time. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Have a great day. Night, actually.